Okay, welcome to PMDB Audio #2, which this wee audio series, well, there's only two at the moment, but what will develop into a series is now exclusive to PMDB Free, my third and often forgotten channel I created in August of 2012. Let's get into it, shall we? I have my tea ready, I've written down some notes. So you might hear me sipping my tea now and again, like now. I hate dead air, but it is what it is. 1988 was when the first Royal Rumble on television took place. I give it a 5 out of 10 in my notes. I haven't rated every Royal Rumble match. I got bored giving ratings. I felt a bit of a mark. I felt a bit too much of a Dave Meltzer mark when I started rating these Rumbles, but I gave the first ever televised Royal Rumble a 5. Nothing really to see here, but Jake the Snake Roberts was really over and was probably the MVP of the first Rumble. And there was a fun exchange between Harley Race and Jim Duggan. Moving on to the 1989 Royal Rumble, it was definitely a step up from 1988, but there was still room for improvement. I thought the Royal Rumble really picked up when Hulk Hogan came in. He was great at the Royal Rumbles. He was only in a few of them. He won 2 out of the 4 he was in. He didn't need to win 2. 1 would have been enough for Hogan, but he really elevated the Rumble match when he would run in and had a great exchange here with the Big Boss Man. Now, the 1990 Royal Rumble would be the best, or one of the best ever it is one of the best ever Royal Rumbles, but it probably would have been the best if it hadn't been for one that took place 2 years later. It has that very memorable exchange between Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior. And just listen to the names in this Rumble match: Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, Andre the Giant, Rowdy Roddy Piper, Demolition, who were the hottest tag team at the time, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, the list goes on and on. We even had Shawn Michaels, a very young Shawn Michaels, in this 1990 Royal Rumble, but in this specific Royal Rumble, he was just a prop here. 991 was not so great. It was a bit of a chore to get through. I've never really enjoyed this Royal Rumble match. It sucks. But I enjoyed seeing the first Rumble appearance of The Undertaker, who was booked strong in this Rumble match and had to be eliminated by both of the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal. And I believe Hawk's only appearance in a Royal Rumble match. The 1992 Royal Rumble is the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. I've already done a long form video on this back in 2019. Ric Flair proves why he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I had a lot of big names in this match too, just like in 1990. Jake the Snake Roberts, he's in several of these Royal Rumbles, and he's one of my favorites of all time, and he was just excellent here. Sid was looking great, and Hogan, this was Hogan's final Rumble appearance, and every time he came out and entered, the Rumble match got, picked up, and the crowd were always hot for his entrance. 993 I used to have a soft spot for. I enjoy the moments between Mr. Perfect and Ric Flair. The Undertaker's got a great showing in this, looks strong. I thought it was fun when he tried to get Yokozuna out. I enjoyed his little confrontation. Well, little might not be the word to use here, but I enjoyed his confrontation with Earthquake. But watching this again, I can see why not many are a fan of this Rumble. Definitely a fall from the great 1992 Rumble. 994, as I sip my tea again. I'll probably edit these bits out, actually. The 1994 Royal Rumble, I believe, is overlooked, criminally overlooked. It has one of, in fact, I'll say 1994's ending is the most memorable ending to a Rumble match ever. Bam Bam Bigelow puts on a good show, as does Shawn Michaels. Really shines here. He's definitely not a prop anymore by the time of 1994. Um, we got Bret Hart selling on, not just in the Rumble match, but in the show when he got his leg kicked out of his leg. Yes, I know that joke has been overplayed by wrestling fans over the years, but Bret the Hitman Hart, his selling was just exceptional at this show. I enjoyed when Lex Luger came in. He wasn't quite, well, he was nowhere near as over as Hulk Hogan, but it was still fun to see him run in and take a few guys out. And one of the most memorable endings to a Rumble match ever when Bret Hart and Lex Luger eliminated each other. 995's Royal Rumble was, I've written down in my notes. I've seen it too many times now, and yeah, it's you take away the story of Shawn Michaels and the British Bulldog going coast to coast and the whole 1 foot gimmick at the end. Take that out of the match. This Rumble match is atrocious. But 996 one's even worse. There was a memorable moment with Jake the Snake Roberts returning with a huge snake. I was going to say Damien, but the snake, Damien in storyline, of course, died at the hands of Earthquake. But it was a huge snake that looked like Damien. Um, but yeah, it was this Rumble was bollocks. There was a few rubbish. Like Shawn Michaels is the one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time, but even the greatest in-ring performers of all time can still produce wrestling crap. And there was a moment in this Royal Rumble where we had to believe that Shawn Michaels could eliminate not just Yokozuna on his own, but Yokozuna and Vader on his. Get out of here! No way. Um, Now the 997 match was all about one man, really, Stone Cold Steve Austin, who really proved that he was the real deal here, on quite a show. He had great chemistry with Bret the Hitman Hart. They, of course, had some great matches. Um, I thought Terry Funk's work in this match was great and memorable. I loved the spot of Austin cheating to win and how the referees didn't see his elimination. I loved all that drama. Good stuff. Now, the 1998 Royal Rumble, definitely one of the best Royal Rumbles of the 90s and one of the best Royal Rumbles of the Attitude Era, was very star studded. A lot of up and coming stars in this Royal Rumble and a lot of fun spots. I particularly like the spot with Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett, um, where Owen Hart's attacked on his way to the ring by Jeff Jarrett earlier on in the Royal Rumble. Then he gets his revenge by throwing out Jeff Jarrett, and the crowd were really, popped for that. This Royal Rumble once again was all about Stone Cold Steve Austin, and rightly so. He was, on fire during 1998. There's a great spot when all the wrestlers stop what they're doing and wait for him to come into the ring when his music hits. Um, Moving on to the 1999 Royal Rumble, the Vince Russo Royal Rumble. A lot of today's wrestling marks, take jabs. I thought it was a very not the best Royal Rumble match ever, but a highly entertaining. There was lots going on. There was the Austin versus McMahon feud at the start and the end. That's in my opinion, the greatest feud in wrestling ever. I thought that was just magic. Austin being number one and Vince McMahon being number two. Kane, I've noted here, was really over when his music hit. Fans, popped big time. And this was the first of many Royal Rumble appearances for Kane. Unfortunately, he would be watered down over the years. But, between the Austin McMahon feud, the whole shenanigans with The Undertaker and the Ministry of Darkness, abducting Mabel, it was a very memorable Royal Rumble, in my opinion. Now we're on to the 2000 Royal Rumble. Now, the 2000 Royal Rumble show in general was kick-ass, one of the best wrestling shows and one of the most memorable for reasons good and bad shows ever. But the Royal Rumble match tanked, in my opinion. Um, and I've written down here, Attitude Rumble's not as good when Vince Russo isn't there. 2001 probably was the best Attitude Era Royal Rumble. So I guess, hey, I'm a hypocrite. I guess Royal Rumbles can work without Russo there. Yeah, walked into that one. Um, However, I've written down the only note I've written down for this Royal Rumble, the 2001 Royal Rumble, is there was a guy that was dressed like Stephen Richards from Right to Censor in the crowd, and he's very, very distracting. Like, I spend a lot of my time watching him and not this great Rumble match. Um, he is kind of entertaining. He freaks out at one point during the Rumble match, and it's quite amusing to see. This was also the last Rumble to feature both The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and them two, just two of the greatest ever. I'm a huge, well, actually, I'm not a huge wrestling mark of anybody anymore, but if I have to say who my favorite is of all time, it's still Steve, and The Rock is just, one of the all-time greats for sure too. Moving on to 2002. Which was highlighted by The Undertaker being eliminated by Maven, and then Triple H won the match. Moving on, I don't really like Triple H, so the less time I spend talking about Triple H, the more I enjoy my life. Now, John Cena has, as I sip my tea again, John Cena, I was wrong about John Cena. He is one of the, as far as the modern wrestling goes, post-Attitude Era, he is one of the greatest ever of the modern era. However, he was still booked terribly. He was shoved down our throats far too much, just like Roman Reigns was, and it puts me off them. But I've got to go back and correct myself. I was wrong about John Cena. He's one of the best of the modern era, post Attitude. He's no Stone Cold. Anyways, this Rumble was during a transitional year, I guess. Brock went on to win, but he wasn't really the star he would become. The crowd was dead after this match, and I'm a huge Brock mark, but I've got to tell it like it is. The crowd was dead after his victory. 2004 Royal Rumble, one of the best Royal Rumbles ever. Really is up there. 1992 is up there, 2001, and this one's right up there with them two. Chris Benoit. He, as far as wrestling goes, was, as far as in-ring wrestling, was one of the best ever, without a doubt. And he really, unlike Rey Mysterio, and I'll get onto the 2006 Rumble there, but he really, battled his way through. He was having moments with every wrestler, more or less, that came into this match. He wasn't lying in a corner, sleeping. He was going at it from start to finish. There was a lot of memorable moments involving two brutal chair shots to Mick Foley from Randy Orton. Goldberg made his appearance and he pretty much killed Nunzio. Brock Lesnar came in and F5'd the hell out of Goldberg, and Benoit went on to win. And of course the Undertaker's gong went off at one point. Very memorable Royal Rumble with great wrestling and memorable moments. 2005 was not too bad. One of the spots I liked in this specific Royal Rumble was the spot with Simon Dean, as he came out and then he started exercising on the outside, and JR on commentating was dying for someone to come in and eliminate Simon Dean immediately, and out comes Shawn Michaels, and he does what JR wanted him to do. But I thought it was a fun spot, and we had the exchange between Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, and that was It was a very brief exchange. I believe Kurt Angle was injured at the time. That's why he was in and out so quick. But you could tell that these two were going to have a great WrestleMania match and many more great matches to come. And yeah, another Royal Rumble, not as good as the 2004 Royal Rumble, but one that was pretty damn memorable too. You know, when I look back at Rumble, I think of the spot of Gene Snitsky, you know, basically taking Paul London's head off in one of the Rumble spots, and that looked brutal. I think back at Vince McMahon blowing out both his quads. That was quite fun to watch him just sitting there. He must have been in absolute agony. 2006. Now this by 2006, if I'm being honest, my interest in wrestling was on the decline, and I don't think this Royal Rumble is up to much. I enjoyed the moments where when Shawn Michaels came in, and basically I enjoyed the moments watching the wrestlers I grew up with, and really enjoyed the moments they come into these later Royal Rumble matches. I don't think a lot of today's wrestlers, with the exception of Brock Lesnar, whom we'll get on to soon, um, are really that great. Um, oh, but yeah, this 2006, it was far too much Triple H in this Royal Rumble. I just didn't buy that Rey Mysterio could win a Royal Rumble. And they also exploited Eddie Guerrero's death during this Rumble too, which was um, just terrible, I thought. 2007, the only memorable thing from 2007 Rumble was the battle between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. At the end, they put on like a half a match at the end, and it was like it gets overshadowed these days that the two went at it at the end of the 2007 Royal Rumble, because they'd go on to have a couple of classic matches at WrestleMania. But here they had a classic of their own, and I thought the end spot was a bit of a botch. I don't think it went as well as it could have. I think Shawn or The Undertaker botched it a wee bit, but still, they did, tear the house down. The 2008 Royal Rumble, I can remember three things really, and that is Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka coming out. They were well past their prime, but they got both, well, especially Piper, massive pop when he came out. It was fun to see. And then I remember I watched a lot of these Royal Rumbles live on television, and I was so shocked to see John Cena. I was irritated to see John Cena. As I said before, I was no fan of John Cena. I couldn't stand him being shoved down our throats so much. But me and Dave Meltzer and all the dirt sheets were totally worked during this time. We thought John Cena was going to miss WrestleMania, and now he comes in number 30 to a massive pop that then would turn into a mixed reaction. But still, it was definitely one of the greatest Royal Rumble moments ever. Yes, love Cena now, clearly. 2009, all I can remember from 2009 one was, now, what I'll say, from 2009 onwards, pretty much every single Royal Rumble is a chore to watch. I'm telling you like it is, folks. In the 2009, I can remember Randy Orton winning, Triple H being last eliminated. It was a great story heading into the Royal Rumble with Triple H and well, actually Orton and the McMahons, and Triple H would get involved there, and it made sense. Randy Orton winning here, and 2009 was a bit of a dud year overall for wrestling, but this feud was pretty damn good between Randy Orton, Triple H, and the McMahons. Shame about the match. 2010 was all about Shawn Michaels, really, wasn't it? I remember smiling from ear to ear when he sweet chinned Triple H out of the Royal Rumble when I originally watched this. I also enjoyed the moments between CM Punk. Of course, he would end up getting eliminated by the up and coming star Triple H. but CM Punk was really shined here like he would shine in the 2011 40-man Royal Rumble. I can see why they didn't do another 40-man Royal Rumble again. It was too much. But I enjoyed seeing Kevin Nash come out at number 32. The moments with CM Punk, and I thought John Cena he's like the Hulk Hogan of the modern. Not as popular as Hulk Hogan or as good as Hulk Hogan, but he's like the Hulk Hogan when it comes to come entering the Royal Rumbles. The crowd, big pop, and he cleans house. And 2012 was and 20 in fact, this is when the Royal Rumbles really began to get awful. 2012 was abysmal. My favourite parts of the 2012 one was when the commentators entered Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler and Booker T. I can't remember next to anything about the 2013 Rumble. I just remember John Cena winning, last eliminating Ryback, and then John Cena would go on to face The Rock in the twice in a lifetime match between him and The Rock at WrestleMania. 2014, I've written in my notes, is simply awful. Um, what can I say? It was just this, like 2014 really felt like the Rumble match itself had lost its luster, and the wrestlers by this point, majority of wrestlers by this point were just. I think what the problem with today's wrestling is we've got too many wrestlers now that are marks. That are marks. They're the biggest wrestling marks out there, and they focus too much on getting a 5-star match rating from Dave Meltzer, and not enough on evolving their character and developing some personality to make us interested in the fake fights. 2015, I think the most memorable moment was Bubba Ray Dudley returning, The Rock coming out near the end, to help Roman Reigns. Not much to discuss other than those two moments. 2016, I feel like the Royal Rumble started to improve a little bit. Big thanks to Brock Lesnar. This was his first Rumble appearance since coming back to the company, and he really elevated the match. And he was one of those that elevated the 2017 Rumble match. I enjoyed seeing him and Bill Goldberg go out again. It was fun to see the face-off between The Undertaker and Goldberg. That should have been the only Undertaker and Goldberg past their prime encounter. If only we were so lucky. Now I was irritated at the time watching this because, and I'm still not a big Roman Reigns fan, and I was a bit irritated when he came out at number 30. But looking back now, and I don't care about wrestling these days really, apart from Brock. Basically, when Brock's done, that's me done with fake fights, like for good. But looking back at this moment, I think it was quite a fun troll moment WWE pulled off here, having Roman Reigns come out at number 30. Then 2018 and 2019 we have our women's Rumble matches, which I think the 2019 women's match is probably the best one ever, but that's not saying much. I don't think the women Royal Rumbles are any good, to be honest. And there's a lot of talented women on WWE roster, but I don't think they've produced a great Rumble match yet. I enjoyed seeing Becky Lynch come out. I think the crowd signs these days, however, are a bit lazy. The man signs are really basic, and I think they could do a little bit more better with signs. But rambling on here about women signs here, but I'm not a big fan of Becky Lynch, but I enjoy some of the stuff she does. I think WWE ruined her a little bit. She's overproduced slightly, but I do enjoy some of the stuff she does. And the best part, the men's Rumble match, ironically, in 2019 was Naomi entering. I believe it was Naomi entering, and she got an RKO from Randy Orton and 619. That was fun. I've also written down here Alexa Bliss, who appeared in the 2019 Women's Rumble as She definitely is a angel from heaven. I'm convinced she has been sent down from heaven and is an angel. She's gorgeous, my goodness. Ooh, bliss indeed. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot to mention the 2018 Men's Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura won. And I can't really remember much else about it. Just like with apart from Naomi entering number 30 at the men's 2019 Rumble, I can't remember much from it either. And then lastly, it was a Royal Rumble I've already spoke about in one of my live videos on the main channel, Paul Michael DB, the 2020 Royal Rumble, where Brock Lesnar once again elevated the Rumble and made Drew McIntyre look strong. Now, do I think Drew McIntyre will go on to become a big star in wrestling? No, because I think wrestling's pretty much dead and it's kind of the ship has sailed. And this is not really on Drew McIntyre. There's a lot of wrestlers with talent, but I just don't think people in general care about wrestling anymore. And I would still count myself as a wrestling fan, but I just think today's product is terrible and it's unwatchable. And the only times I watch is when Brock Lesnar's on. Also, I must say, between 2009 and now, also a little bit on the women's 2020 Rumble match. The only thing I can remember is Charlotte Flair winning. I can't even remember who she eliminated. It was that memorable. Um, and I stopped really caring about the men's 2020 Royal Rumble as soon as Brock was eliminated. I still watched it, but I was kind of lost interest, and that's what basically is going to happen when he does eventually retire from fake fights. But one thing I will say, by the time of the 2009 Royal Rumble, you will get sick of seeing Dolph Ziggler, The Miz, Kofi Kingston. How many like oh like I I felt like I was watching the same Royal Rumble time and time and time again. Yes, all three of those wrestlers I mentioned are talented in their own right. Do I think they're great wrestlers? Hell no. Um, the Miz, for example, doesn't look like a wrestler at all. He looks like this is the problem with today's wrestling. This is why I don't think they're getting much of an audience because the wrestlers no longer look like they're larger than life and they don't look like tough guys anymore. Brock Lesnar looks larger than life. And I agree. As far as the modern era goes, I 100% agree, and Jim Cornette I think agrees too. I'm not the biggest Jim Cornette mark anymore, more a Vince Russo guy these days as I ramble on here, but without a doubt, in the modern era of wrestling, Brock Lesnar is the best ever, and he's one of the best ever of all time. I can only think maybe Steve Austin being better at, at the overall package of wrestling than Brock Lesnar. So that's my thoughts on. I've mentioned every single Rumble match. Why have I been watching every single Royal Rumble match lately? Well, simple. I'm making the most out of my free trial, the WWE Network. I got the free trial for the WWE Network to see the how Brock would do as number one, and I thought it was quite fun. I liked seeing him dance a little bit to MVP's theme. It's the simple things in life. And then I thought I'll make the most of this WWE Network, and I watched well, I say watched. I had every Royal Rumble on in the background while I was doing other things, and it was a bit of a chore. But I once I start a marathon of whatever it may be, I always want to finish it. But it was interesting to see how exciting the Rumble was to begin with, and how much it had changed from say '88 to 1999, and then how much it really has looked more or less the same since 2009 and lost its luster a little bit. That's my thoughts. The greatest ever one was 992, won by Ric Flair. The worst, uh, the worst would have to be. I'm going to go with 2014. It's really close between the 2014 Royal Rumble and 2015. Both were dire. And then there's the forgettable ones like the 2012 and 20. Basically, the worst Rumble match ever is a toss-up between 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015, all fairly dire.